Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. You are no doubt aware that Gervonta Tank Davis is taking on Ryan King Rye Garcia. I'm not too sure about that nickname, mate, but never mind. Yeah, at the weekend, Davis, 28 wins, no defeats, no draws, 26 KOs. Ryan Garcia, 23 wins, no draws, no defeats, 19 KOs. Who's going to win? Well, let's go through the fighters one at a time. We'll start with Davis, currently the WBA lightweight champ, and yeah, 5 foot. Was he 5'5", 5'6"? The nickname Tank implies that he's quite stocky. He is quite stocky. Very, very physically strong. Very powerful. Hits hard with both hands. Has had his out of the ring issues, shall we say, legally. I mean, he's 28 now. It seemed like only yesterday he was 20. And the knock against the sort of PBC, Mayweather, Al Heyman fighters is that they don't fight enough. And I think if you look back at Tank's record, he has fought once this year, actually. He fought against Hector Luis Garcia, stopped him in 9 rounds. Garcia was undefeated, 16-0, but not really much of a match for Tank. Prior to that, in 2022, only had one fight. That was against Rolando Romero, good old Rolly, who no one gave a chance to beat Tank. And Rolly did very, very well against Tank until he walked into, was it a big left hook? Tank was on the ropes and drew Rolly in and bang, that's all she wrote. And that was in the 6th round. In 2021, he had 2 fights, one against Isaac Cruz, Pitbull Cruz, you'll remember that one. That was a good fight, actually. He won a unanimous decision over 12. Some people said they thought Cruz won. I beg to differ. It was close from what I remember, but I can't remember, actually. How did I score that fight? I think I thought it was very, very close. You could have had a draw. But, yeah, I mean, I think the judges had it. A couple of them had it Tank 2 points ahead. One of them had him maybe 3 or 4 points ahead. But it was a tough fight. It was a tough fight. I think Cruz was a late replacement for someone who I can't remember. He definitely came in at the 11th hour and gave a very good account of himself. And the other fight in 2021 was Mario Barrios, excuse me. He stopped him in 11 rounds. Tank did. But his most picturesque sort of highlight reel knockout he's got is over a much, much smaller man, which was in 2020, and that was Leo Santa Cruz. Excellent fighter, Santa Cruz, but just did not have the size to take on Tank. I mean, was this at Super Feather? It might have been. I know the Barrios fight was put it this way, the Barrios fight was the one after the Santa Cruz fight, and that was at light welterweight, or super lightweight if you prefer. I think, I'll have to look this up, but Leo Santa Cruz, I think that was a super featherweight fight. So clearly he was a much, much bigger man. He's a much, much bigger man, Tank. And he scored this beautiful knockout where he just starched Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz has only fought once since then, and that was last year. So he had a long time out, and then came back, won a 10-round decision over a guy called Carbajal, who I didn't know much about. I think he whitewashed him. But with Tank, weight has been a problem. He's failed to make weight a couple of times. He's flitted up and down in weight. He likes to party a bit. That's been his reputation anyway. He's one of those guys who's just covered head to toe in tattoos. He likes that sort of tough guy, street guy, gangbanger image, I guess you'd call it. But he can fight. He can fight. He's got good skills. He fights extremely patiently. Will have a look at you early on. Won't do much. Doesn't panic. Doesn't overexert himself. He recognises that 12 rounds is 36 minutes of fighting. He's got time. But he can fall behind like he did against Romero. I mean, Rolly Romero was given no hope against Tank, and I thought he did pretty well. I thought he won most of the completed rounds, the first 5 rounds. So there is a danger of Tank sort of falling he's sort of lulling himself to sleep with his own patience, so to speak. Whereas Ryan Garcia, 4 years younger at 24, I think he's about 3 or 4 inches tall. He's about 5'9", 5'10". Different style totally, very, very upright. Tank sort of rolls forward, no pun intended, whereas Ryan tends to very, very slick punches, lots of straight punches, but does tend to stand upright and pull out. He can pull out in straight lines. not really a lot of defensively. He's not. I wouldn't say he was poor, looking back on it, but he does tend to leave himself a little bit vulnerable when he is someone who will overexert himself occasionally, and when he pulls out, he can leave himself vulnerable because he is very, very upright. Now, if you look at his recent record, he did not have a tune-up, which annoyed a tune-up for this fight with Tank Davis, which annoyed Oscar De La Hoya, who's his promoter. De La Hoya is actually on record as saying he should have had that tune-up. He should, you sharpen your tools before you go to war. Davis has done that with his previous fight, the one earlier this year, and it was a decent performance. It was a good little runaround. But Garcia, if you go back to the last time he fought, you've got to go back to July 2022 when he stopped Javier Fortuna in 6 rounds. He did have one other fight in 2022. That was in April, and it was a 12-round unanimous decision over Emmanuel Tago, and he had Tago on the floor in round 2 and won. I mean, wide. It was only won almost all the rounds, all but maybe 1 or 2 of the rounds, and it was a sort of. I think that was his first fight with a new trainer, so he was really sharpening his tools. Prior to that, in 2021, he had what is probably his most recognisable win, which was against Luke Campbell. Stopped him in 7 rounds, but he was on the floor quite heavy in round 2, and that was a good example of him, looking to be on the front foot, looking to be industrious and proactive, and pulling out upright. And Campbell nailed him and put him over, and it was quite a heavy knockdown. So who's going to win this fight then? Well, the styles are, Tank's probably going to be very patient early on. Ryan, he might actually lull Ryan into getting quite brave after 3 rounds. I see Ryan taking a lead, probably leading after 6 rounds. Ryan's going to get more and more adventurous, a bit more cavalier. He throws lovely fluid punches and combinations. But again, Tank kind of likes that. He likes these single pot shot counters, hooks. Ryan's probably going to control the jab, control it with the jab, control the range. But Tank is not averse to sort of almost crawling under the offense and positioning himself where he is in punching range and you don't realise. I see Gervonta Davis causing some trouble for Garcia, probably in the middle rounds, beginning to get closer, edge closer. I think Garcia will be leading after about 8 rounds, but eventually I see Tank at some point detonating a big hook onto Garcia's jaw. We shouldn't forget the body, of course, because some fighters do. Let's not forget that Campbell was stopped by a big hook to the body from Garcia. And by the way, Campbell said Garcia hits harder than Lomachenko, which might not surprise a few people because, again, Lomachenko is probably a smaller man, but and doesn't actually try to land heavy individual punches. It's more combinations. But I see Tank finally getting close in the middle rounds, maybe around 6, 7, 8, starting to land with some regularity, with some counters on Garcia, and probably nailing him at some point between rounds 8, 9, 10 with a hook. Maybe I'm thinking a hook. I don't know why, but maybe a hook that puts him on his back, Garcia. I think Garcia will get up, but I think the referee will stop it. I think Tank will win this fight by stoppage, rounds 8, 9, 10. And he might soften him up to the body. He might. But it's up to Garcia to forget that Tank's got a body too. He needs to really bang that body. The way to get Tank is the type of guy who, as I say, will lull you into a false sense of security. You'll get brave. I mean, we saw this with Rolly, and Garcia is a much better fighter than Rolly Romero, but Rolly was able to sort of outwork Tank, but when he got so brave, you saw the finish of that fight, the way Tank had his back to the ropes, lured Rolly in. Rolly, after 6 rounds, was feeling, hey, I'm winning this hands down. And next thing you know, the fight's over. I think Garcia will suffer a similar fate. I think he'll just get nailed, I'm going to say with a left hook, in about 8 rounds. 9, 8, 9, 10. I'll go with 8. I'll go in the 8th round. All right, so a stoppage for me for Gervonta Davis over Ryan Garcia in 8 rounds. That's going to be my prediction. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Leave your predictions below. As always, thanks for your time. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Please subscribe, and please get all your mates to subscribe. We want to build the channel up. And yeah, like the video if you liked it. That helps us out as well. Thanks for your time. Looking forward to the fight. Looking forward to your comments. Speak soon. Bye-bye for now.